Hello, folks. It is about 5:35 on the morning of August 12th, 2007. This is going to be an audio blog, as you can tell, mainly because it is still too dark outside for me to shoot, or at least for me to comfortably shoot and be happy with the quality. So you're just going to have to deal with this. Just think of it as public radio without all the nice, government funding. What I'm going to talk about today is, in a very roundabout way, sleep or lack thereof. You see, this is the second day in a row. Fucking airplane right above me. Literally can't be more than maybe a city block or so in the air above me. I don't know where the fucker's going. Anyway, as I was saying, tonight, or rather this morning, I guess, marks the second day in a row that I've been unable to sleep. Now, yesterday, I could chalk it up to the excuse of being on Stickum for too long, finding distractions, etc., etc. But I'm pretty sure that my mind cleverly engineered all of those to be nice distractions from the same thing that kept me up through tonight. Now, I know that you guys there on the internet don't take well to complaining and tend to call people emo when they start complaining about their personal lives. But fuck you, I'm gonna do it anyways. You see, friends have always been a very massive part of my life, almost as large a part of my life as Rebecca has. And, well, due to recent circumstances regarding school and such things as that, it has been slightly difficult as of late for me to hold on to really any friends or anything of that sort. You see, through elementary school, I didn't really have friends. I had people I played with, I had acquaintances, I had people that came to birthday parties, shit like that. But those people weren't real friends. Nobody to talk to. But that's alright, because you don't really start noticing emotional problems or developing them. It's hard to tell the difference until around middle school age anyways. The first year of middle school didn't really go so well for me. In fact, all of middle school really didn't go so well for me. And I'm not going to blame anybody else other than myself, really, for that. I was in a very bad place at the time, as most kids in middle school are, but I don't know if I let it get to me more than other kids, or whether it was just the simple fact that it affected me more than other kids. Or it could have simply been that I was more aware of it than other kids. Now that means fucking helicopter. So consequently, I did not really do very well academically or emotionally through most of middle school. I had a couple of people that I became friends with on the newspaper staff because I worked for the school newspaper. But as was so astutely pointed out by one of them a couple of years later, the feeling of friendship that I so desperately created for myself in that group really never existed. In fact, I really didn't gain very good friends, I would say, until probably my last year in middle school, my second year. When about halfway through the year, I helped one of the computer teachers, Mrs. O'Shell, because I'm fairly decent with computers. And so, basically, it was a group of 3 kids. Kenny, who I've mentioned before, Jason, and myself. And we very much, basically all we did was we went around to all the rooms when teachers had computer problems and such. And if it was a little tiny problem, or if it was just work that needed to be done, Jason and I took care of it with the help of Kenny. And if it was an actual big computer problem, Kenny took care of it while Jason and I watched. You see, we talked about several times during that year about perhaps after graduating from college, creating a computer firm together, the 3 of us at least. And I don't know if we were just too blind. I know probably on my end it was the same sort of situation as it was with the newspaper staff, of me just ignoring what was painfully obvious to any outside observer. That never had a chance. The only person out of the group of us that really had enough talent for that to ever work for was Kenny. Jason and I were never good enough for that to ever even have had the slightest inkling of being able to get off the ground. But, he can pretend. Now, the folks that were on the newspaper staff, they were all a year older than I was. I was actually the youngest person on the newspaper staff, and I think the reason that I created this sort of tight-knit group in my mind was because basically our first year, the computer staff, or rather the newspaper staff, really just went down the tubes. We had something like, I want to say, 15 to 20 people show up at the meeting at the beginning of the year. 2 or 3 of those people actually stuck around for a couple of months. And then it was reduced to being 4 people that had been on the staff the previous year, and myself. Those four people were Joe, Sarah, Christy, and Monica, the astute observer. And a big thing was, obviously, the rest of them, everybody except for me, was a year more advanced than I was. So consequently, by the second year, I was left alone. Newspaper staff really, at least for me, completely and totally fell apart. Because Monica and Christy, who were the chief editors of the newspaper, basically left the newspaper in my control. After they left, because I was the only one that knew what the fuck was going on. Well, the teacher observer publisher person, who was basically the adult supervisor of the staff, who was never there, when more people joined up the second year, appointed two people. Brian, who, damn it, we used to have Spoley. That was it. That was his nickname, Spoley. Spoley and Matt were appointed co-editors to sort of help things along. And I was made editor-in-chief and basically an editor of the internet section, because that was the section that I had worked on the previous year. Now, more and more, Spoley and Matt started sort of overstepping what I thought to be their boundaries. Now, I will be the first to admit that there is a definite possibility that it was simply a fact of perhaps me considering myself more important than I was, or me considering the fact that a chief editor has much more pull than co-editors, and that co-editors are usually required to notify a chief editor when they want to change things. But basically it all fell apart. And somehow along the way, I was somehow reduced to being just the internet section editor, and at that point, I just completely quit the whole fucking thing, because I was just pissed at the fact that something that I still considered very important to me, the fact that I had been left in charge of this thing that had basically been so socially important to me over the past year, have just been snatched away from me by a third party that really shouldn't have had any fucking say in the matter. But this is already running long. I'm almost running to 15 minutes now. When I moved up to high school, I obviously reconnected with the friends I had from the newspaper staff, all of whom I still feel, regardless of whether it was fictional or not, a very, very close connection to. But the only one, really, that I retained through high school, at least, a very, very close personal friendship with was Monica, as I'm sure I've mentioned to you guys before. Though I didn't actually use her name in these previous circumstances. And obviously, Kenny and I remained friends. Jason drifted away from the group after he became a bit of an asshole, a bit of a jackass during high school. Not a full-on, I mean, I still liked the kid, I still hung out with the kid, but his jackassiness manifested itself more than it had ever done before. I also gained a lot of friends through high school, a lot of very close friends, but eventually, really, my close-knit friends resulted in being Kenny, Monica, Nicholas, or Nick, I guess, as he prefers to be called. Oh, I still like his full name. He'd been a friend of mine since around 3rd grade, but we had never really gotten real close until, late middle school, early high school. And Max, who I had known since birth, but had never really had much exposure to because he was a year older than me, and Quinn. And then halfway through my freshman year, I met and started dating Rebecca. Now, you guys already know, whether you're aware of it or not, the situation that happened with Monica, so we're not going to delve into that, because if she hears or sees any of this, if history has anything to tell about the matter, she'll just get angry at me for it. But basically, by the end of high school, all that was left of this close-knit group was myself, Kenny, and Nick. Now, when I left high school, I obviously left behind both Nicholas and Kenny because I came down here to Philadelphia to go to school to be closer to Rebecca, and they stayed back closer to Pittsburgh. Kenny is going to Carnegie Mellon because he's just that damn smart, and Nicholas is going to... He's going to be so pissed at me if I fuck this up, but I want to say University of Penn. I want to say. Quinn deteriorated over the years a little bit, and my relationship with him very, very much, less deteriorated and more of was completely severed by a couple of actions that he took that I would prefer not to speak about in a public forum right now. Just on the off chance that he would hear this, and I still am not quite sure that he knows what he did, or that he really did anything. But so I get to college, and I make, by sheer luck, it seems, a couple of people that I definitely considered very, very good friends. Since the beginning of my freshman year, Meg, Naomi, and to a lesser degree, sorry to say, girls, Megan and Emily. Then about halfway through the first semester, John popped into the picture. And then, last but not least, Tanya popped into the picture, really completely by accident. Now, to make a long story short, as I've already said, we became very good friends. But my recent departure from Ursinus basically caused that to go all foobar. So now I am left here in Philadelphia, living on my own with Rebecca, around nobody of my same age group, or even anywhere close, 3 years earlier than I intended to be in this situation, and with absolutely no close friends whatsoever. And I am the kind of person whose memories plague them often, especially at nighttime, because since I was a small child, as with most small children, nighttime eliminates everything else you have to think of, so memories and imagination start manifesting themselves at really the worst possible time they can. So consequently, my thoughts have been turning to this imminent loneliness that I have been feeling for the past 2 nights at the very least, and it has kept me from sleep. And though I'm making some friends at work, I've met some really, really fucking awesome people here in the building. None of them are what I would consider to be close friends. Now, I hope that some of this problem will be somewhat fixed after school starts again and I can go and visit everybody from college. But there's also been one tiny little detail in the back of my mind that's been fucking with me, and I actually kind of hope Nick and Kenny listen to this. That is the fact that on 2 occasions I returned to Pittsburgh, as you guys know. Once for a good 3-week period before I moved permanently down here to Philadelphia, and then I was in Pittsburgh for at least 3 or 4 days upon my return for the trip to Ocracoke, or to the Outer Banks, rather. Now, despite the fact that I alerted both Kenny and Nicholas to these returns, I am not sure for what reason, if any, we were unable to meet up and talk, or even just hang out. I have not seen Kenny and Nicholas since Jesus, I guess it would be since this past Christmas. And the fact that I was home for a 3-week period, or the fact that I was back in Pittsburgh, rather. This is home now, I guess. Back in Pittsburgh for a full 3-week period. And neither of them could find the time to meet up with me. Was something that hurt me very, very much. I have been unable to really speak to Nicholas since that time, considering the fact that he's never really online to speak to, even through, instant messenger or anything like that. And Kenny I've only spoken to sparsely, because, well, he's always been a workaholic, and that has not changed. That's it. I've been boring you guys for enough. This is already almost a half-hour long, entirely audio blog. I regret to tell you guys that I'm not going to edit this at all. I'm just going to let it run. So, I guess it's going to depend on which of you actually care enough to hear all of this. But I'm sorry for this exceedingly long and most likely, to you at least, exceedingly boring audio blog. But this is just something I had to talk about before it becomes an even bigger problem than it already is. So I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, and try not to fuck.
As we go on, we